Ready to make a real impact every day? Join the Active Day Home Care team and help clients maintain their independence in the comfort of their own homes. Make a difference in someone's life as you provide essential daily assistance and protect their health and happiness. Earn up to $20 an hour and enjoy additional perks like optional daily pay, 401k, paid time off, ongoing educational training, and more. Join a team that values care, compassion, and your professional growth. Visit activeday.com to apply.
All right, guys, I want to get your gut level reaction. I haven't prepared you for this question. You don't know what's coming. You have to pick one. No hesitation. I'm going to start with you, Nate, so that you don't have a chance to overthink this.
Okay.
Gut reaction. Which is your favorite, Ahsoka or Andor? Go.
Ahsoka.
That's not a popular position, by the way.
Oh, I know.
Okay. Nate, Sam? Ahsoka or Andor?
It's a hard pick for me.
Got to pick one right now.
I would go with Ahsoka.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I loved Andor just for like what it was, and like it's just quality and everything. I mean, it was a phenomenal show. Nobody can deny that. But there's more, and I think this is probably what influenced Nathan as well. There's more personal connection with Ahsoka. Plus, Thrawn.
I'll expand on my thoughts later.
Well, we'll dig into that topic more on today's episode, and I guess we'll find out, is there a way to find balance on this, or could we be on the verge of a war to rival the millennia-long conflict between the Jedi and the Sith? This is Tatooine Sons.
Welcome to Tatooine Sons, a Star Wars podcast, the only fan podcast to name a canon Star Wars creature and to be endorsed by the writer and director of The Last Jedi, Rian Johnson. Get ready to celebrate a galaxy far, far away across the generations. Here are your hosts, David, the Bowtie Jedi Guy, Samuel the Hutt, and BB Nate.
Welcome, Star Wars fans. This is Tatooine Sons, your weekly look into all things Star Wars from the unique perspective of a father sharing his love for the amazing space fantasy saga with his two sons. I am BB Nate, and I am joined first by my brother, Samuel the Hutt.
A chew to Star Wars fans, and if you're not a Star Wars fan, then you probably have no idea about the dialogue that we have between Ahsoka versus Andor, because
The dialogue,
the conversation, the conflict between that. Because why would you know?
And
about
you're
that?
probably not listening to this podcast either.
Well, I mean, we talk about more than just Star Wars now.
This is
so
true. This is true.
And of course, you can't have Star Wars without bizarre father figures. So on that note, here's my dad, the Bowtie Jedi Guy.
If I say the number 700, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
dyslexic James Bond.
Dyslexic 007, 700. Okay. Interesting. Anything?
The number 700 out and literally doesn't bring anything.
Nothing comes to your mind?
No.
Sounds like
Well, for me, it's the amazing response when we posted on Threads where we were just saying, listen, if you're a Star Wars dad, we want to connect with you, and then talked a little bit about building a community for Star Wars dads, and over 700 Star Wars dads metaphorically, I guess, electronically raised their hands and said they want to be
digitally raised.
Digitally, that's the phrase I was looking for.
Yeah.
Digitally raised their hands, saying they want to be a part of it. We've actually got a group of about 15, 16 that have directly reached out, submitted information, and we're trying to get this group together to start planning out what that means. What
That's
this
cool.
community
That's awesome.
look like.
I love that.
People from all over, different ages. Some are grandparents, some are original trilogy kids that grew up and now have grandkids that are watching Star Wars. And others are like one, he's literally got twins that are getting ready to be born.
Oh, that's cool.
That's cool.
With it. So all over the board on that. But thank you guys for tuning in. This is going to be a lot of fun. What's been happening? It's been a month since we recorded.
It has been.
What's been happening in our worlds?
Nate's
Nate?
almost adulting now.
He's
A
adulting?
little bit.
I have a summer internship at the church right now.
Yeah?
Just some tech stuff. So
Been a busy week.
very.
What was the weirdest thing your first week? It was VBS week,
Yeah.
which was a big part of that, right? Running sound, tech, all that
Everything.
kind of stuff. What was the weirdest thing you had to be a part of this week?
Pushing a stuffed gorilla off the catwalk.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was fun.
What was the context behind
Well,
that?
they have a cameo of the stuffed gorilla every year for years now.
Oh, okay. It's a running gag.
Had to have a cameo.
And so there were kids that were waiting for the stuffed gorilla.
So did you do like the Spartan kick? Like
no,
off the
I
balcony?
couldn't do that, or I would have fallen off.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
So they actually had the intern risk his life.
Yeah,
It was-
pretty much. No lights in the catwalk either, because it would have
given
it away.
that something was happening in the catwalk.
It was really dark up there, and you would have died if you don't.
Yeah.
Sam doesn't like heights at all.
He would have died because the ladder to get up there goes a little bit backwards. You hang
no,
a
I'm
little bit
good.
back to
I'm
be able
good.
to get up there. So
What about
good.
you, Sam? You had an interesting week.
I did. Yeah, it's different. I adopted a little puppy.
this
Chubbs.
It was just last
Good.
Saturday.
Man,
It's been less
It's
than a
been
week.
less than a week.
Wow. long week.
His name's Chubbs. He's probably about 3 or 4 months old now. We think he's mostly an American bulldog, maybe with some other stuff mixed in there because he's a rescue. The shelter, they don't know. But he is a sweetheart. He is clingy. Oh my word, is he clingy? But it's okay. I can't
Clingy
complain.
dog is what you.
Is a
prefer
good
over-
thing most of the time. Yeah. So still getting him trained. He still likes to nibble on stuff and all of that. But he's a really sweet dog, and he gets along with Rex pretty well.
Rex is a sweetheart. Rex is our 60-pound golden doodle,
yeah,
who
he's
definitely is bigger
a lot.
Yes, very much so.
and wants to play, but knows he would crush Chubbs.
Yes.
And so like he was like breaking up. He Rex got a treat last night. Well, last night we went and saw How to Train Your Dragon for the second time in a row, while Mom stayed home and dog sat Chubbs. And Rex got a treat, and he broke it up and laid it on the floor and gave a piece to Chubbs.
Aw, that's sweet.
With it.
Well, what's funny too is they're kind of like a nice little symbiotic relationship because Rex, he'll like drop food all the time whenever he's eating for
On
whatever
the
reason.
floor.
Like certain pieces,
just
he
lets it
just
fall out of his mouth.
yeah, he just doesn't like it, and then Chubbs will come up and finish up little pieces. So.
Yes, exactly.
It's fun. Yeah, and well, we're recording this Friday,
Right.
the Friday before Father's Day. You're listening to this after Father's Day,
Right.
with this. I'm trying to decide. So tomorrow is basically just a chill day for me with it. And I feel like I'm just going to crash and watch some Star Wars, but I can't decide. So I want to get your guys' input on this. I'm about halfway through, I'm almost to the Twin Sons episode of season 3 of Rebels in my
a good episode.
rewatch. So I've got basically 3 or 4 episodes and a season left of Star Wars Rebels.
Right.
But I also have this kind of craving to rewatch Skeleton Crew. What do you guys think? Which one should I do tomorrow if I just crash in here and watch Star Wars?
I think it's always good to finish up Rebels.
I was going to vote Rebels, yeah. Because you've watched Skeleton Crew more recently, so.
I have, and I'm really getting into Rebels, but that's kind of the logic that I've been having to make Rebels the rewatch, but I really want to watch Skeleton Crew too.
I mean,
I don't know if I have
up to you.
I mean, it's got,
you got Sunday, too.
Well, Sunday, are you wanting to go see Last Crusade? That's the question.
Is that Sunday?
Yeah, they're putting it back in for Father's Day.
I didn't know this.
Really?
Is
That's
it-
the best one.
well, I mean, there's debate.
No,
on
that is the best one.
It is the best one.
It's a pretty good one. It's a Father's Day episode.
It is.
It's a
That's
very
probably why they put it in
father-centric
there.
one.
That's cool.
It's also an anniversary. I can't remember what kind of anniversary, but it is an anniversary.
Probably 35th
30.
anniversary of Last Crusade. Is what
I feel like it's older than that.
no, I don't think so.
No clue.
Well, anyway, we'll have to see. We've already mentioned that in the opening what we're going to be talking about. We're going to talk about this contrasting visions for the future of Star Wars. You have the kind of Gilroy Andor approach, and then you have the Filoni Ahsoka approach. We're going to dive into that a little bit more. What else are we going to be talking about on today's episode?
I mean, we went to, finally got to visit Epic Universe,
Yes.
which was really cool. So, yeah, I won't say too much now, but we'll get into that for sure.
Yes. And then we've seen a lot of movies since last time.
There's a lot more movies to come.
A lot more movies to come too. I think we have a movie pretty much every week for the next 5 weeks.
What's next week / this week, depending on, I mean, if
We're
you're
going to
just-
see 28 Years Later.
You and I. Yeah, that's right.
No,
That's,
I'm not going to go see that.
That's
And then
Thursday.
the week
right?
after that, the week after that's F1.
Dang.
And then after that's Jurassic World.
And then after that, Superman.
So I got a break. Okay.
Then it's,
Well, we'll get to it.
Superman, and there's a bunch of stuff coming out. But yeah, we got to talk about what we've seen first. 'Cause
True,
It's been a lot.
true,
So,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Well, all right. That's enough talking about what we're going to talk about. Let's talk about what we're talking about.
This is where the fun begins.
All right. So what were your expectations going into Epic Universe? I'll start with you, BB Nate.
Oh, they were high. You've heard that it was going to be absolutely game changing and all this stuff. And even from previews, people were super excited. My expectations started to get a little lower closer to time due to some issues that they ran into during the previews, but I was still
What are some
really
of the things
excited.
that you
Just
were worried about?
the lines and the whole queue system for Battle at the Ministry was a mess, and
Because they were doing virtual queue for that.
part of it was, and then other parts they were only having it open for like 2 hours a day, and some days it didn't even open at all, and a bunch of rides, especially like Monsters Unchained and just pretty much all of Dark Universe, the rides were down all day. Like a lot of issues running into the opening, but thankfully that none of that happened for us, so that was good.
So your expectations were extremely high for you.
Yeah, they're pretty high.
What about you, Sam?
I think they were pretty tempered.
Ready to make a real impact every day? Join the Active Day Home Care team and help clients maintain their independence in the comfort of their own homes. Make a difference in someone's life as you provide essential daily assistance and protect their health and happiness. Earn up to $20 an hour and enjoy additional perks like optional daily pay, 401k, paid time off, ongoing educational training, and more. Join a team that values care, compassion, and your professional growth. Visit activeday.com to apply.
You have unread texts from Golf Buds. Would you like me to read them?
Yes.
Okay. Johnny says, what are the nicotine pouches you had on the course? Walker says, 8 milligram on nicotine pouches. Billy says, I love the mint one.
I like that one.
Walker says, me too. By the way, you both stink at golf. LOLOL.
Come on. Carry on nicotine pouches. Shop now at onnicotine.com/group text. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
I made it a point not to watch or read a lot of stuff about it, with what was in the parks or even reactions before going to the park, because I wanted it to be my own opinions going into it. So I was going into it with just kind of a pretty open mind, clean slate, just whatever it was going to be was what it was going to be, sort of mindset. But what about you, Dad?
I was going in completely blind. I knew nothing about this park. I mean, I remember like the morning of like waiting in line out front for early access because we were staying on Universal property. We got early access. This was the second day it was open to the public. First full day that it was open, to the public. We were standing outside in rope drop, and I'm trying to understand what this park is. Right, I remember seeing the announcement video, but I didn't remember what what worlds like themes that they were going to have, and so I went in basically blind to it. So my expectations were honestly pretty low because my expectations were built around second day the park is open, massive crowds. It's going to be a mess logistically. It's going to be crazy crowds, and we're going to be just pretty much, if we get a handful of rides in, I'm going to consider it a win. Right. What I was thinking. So my expectations were really low. Start with you, Sam. What did Epic meet whatever expectations you had coming into it?
Oh yeah. It exceeded them. I mean, the park was, sure, it was day 2, so it was brand new, which the newness of the park was really nice too, right?
It was.
I mean, just the fact that everything was shiny.
Oh yeah, it was
and
brand
clean,
new.
You know, that was neat. But the actual theming of the lands and the rides themselves, even just the small details like the restaurant we went to and stuff like that, you know, it all came together to make a really, really nice experience. It was just a great theme park in general, you know, whether you're comparing it to Disney or Universal or whatever is different. But it just as a theme park in and of itself, it was a great experience. Great experience.
What about you, Nate? Did it meet your expectations?
Oh, for sure. I mean, for what I was wanting, it exceeded them from what I could expect. Yeah, it was a really great park, and everything was just pretty seamless. Even though it was the second day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it blew my expectations away.
Yeah.
You had low
I
expectations.
mean, I had low expectations, but my expectations were crazy long lines, things breaking down, it not working the right way. None of that happened.
Well, we had a couple.
We had one
issue really with the lines.
We were in.
It was Mario Kart.
The Mario Kart. We got stuck in that line for a long time
because it
broke down. And I guess it has a reputation for that.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, there's a lot that goes on in it.
It's complex.
It's
yeah.
very
complex. I mean, but what sucked was we got sat on the ride
and then
had our little helmets on, and then we had to sit for another. What was it like? An
it was
hour?
almost 45 minutes.
Yeah, just waiting to go.
It was a lot, but
that
happens. If that's the only thing. Yeah,
for day 2 in a theme park, if that's our only issue, that's a successful day at any park.
The beautiful thing is staying on property, early access. We also had invested extra into Express Pass because we were trying to be prepared for crazy crowds, crazy lines,
and that paid dividends.
Mm-hmm. We didn't even use Express Pass for most of the day.
At the beginning, no,
towards you're right. The morning. We didn't.
We were able to just almost like 10-minute waits.
So we saved
rides. They had limited capacity so much for the initial weekend opening. I know that the next week they had some tragic stuff.
They had issues,
but the weekend of opening, it was phenomenal with it. And we got in, and I guess the Super Nintendo World was open.
Well, it was one of the lands that was open.
What was there another land that had opened yet?
No.
Okay, so we did the Donkey Kong ride. Got in there 10 minutes. We're done with that. Got in line at at the Mario Kart ride. It broke down. We got out of line. Went and did some other stuff. Did the Yoshi. Did some other stuff in that area. And then by then it was basically 9. We went over to Burke. Yeah. Which was the How to Train Your Dragon land.
Right.
With it, rode those right away. Went to Stardust Racers. Waited in line because they were that's the only gripe that I had pretty much all day was the way that they managed Stardust Racers.
Yeah, it was
because they limited
run.
the number of cars that were running, and then they would have to stop the ride, bring in more cars when they wanted to do it, and start it up again. And it just felt like it's opening day. Just get all your cars on the track and run them.
Yeah.
That was but it was a great ride.
It was
with it. Went over to Monsters. The monsters. Is it Dark Universe? Dark Universe
or Darkmoor is the land.
Yeah, that's
Darkmoor is what they call it.
Either one.
Yeah.
I mean, that was great. Went over to Harry Potter Land. That I thought we were going to be in line for a lot longer than we were. It was a long line, but
it wasn't that bad though. We waited about 45 minutes.
But the thing is
the queue.
The queue was incredible. It was one of the best queues I've ever been in, save for. Well, honestly, it beats Rise of Resistance. I mean, Rise of Resistance has the cool moment where you're in the shuttle and then you go into the Star Destroyer. That's it.
All of the Ministry was just insane.
It was so overdone for what a queue needs to be, which is a weird thing to say.
Yeah.
But they put a lot more into something where people are standing there. I mean, it was really cool. It was a really cool.
It was tremendous. What was your favorite experience?
I think we know what Nate's.
Burke. No doubt. Just all of Burke. I mean, I could probably spend an entire day there if I wanted to. Yeah, there was so much that we didn't even see. It feels like there was so much that we could have done. We didn't even do a ride in it because it was a water ride, but still, I'm sure it would be fun.
I've heard it is a fun
ride. I've heard it's a fun ride. But just Burke in general, it's just probably one of the most immersive theme park lands I've ever been in. I mean, it blew Galaxy's Edge out of the water.
Really?
I mean, Galaxy's Edge, I don't know. The main issue that I think we've all had with Galaxy's Edge is how it just feels like it's placed into a park. And there's no transition to Star Wars. It feels like you're still just there.
Yeah, well, and I think the other point we brought up with that, because we've made this comparison between Universal and Galaxy's Edge before. The other thing too is with Burke and Diagon Alley and things like that. These are places that you have seen in the movies, been like, oh man, I would love to go there. And now you can. With Galaxy's Edge, I get it. They were trying to make it to where you can make your own story. It's this new thing, right? But you have no connection to the place. So you have to throw in things like X-Wings and the Millennium Falcon and then have characters show up to give you that, honestly, nostalgia. I mean, that's let's just be honest, that's what theme parks play off of, is nostalgia. That's the big ticket item. And I think you and I we'll probably talk about this later. But with things like Burke, you've seen that, and you're like, I'm here. I'm in my favorite story now.
Right.
So it gives you a different anchor when you're in the theme park. So I think that's another thing that really helps the immersion with it.
What was your favorite experience at Epic?
I don't know. I mean, it was tough. I liked Burke a lot. I thought it was really cool because you and I, Nate, we grew up on that movie. Mm-hmm. I mean, that thing was on repeat. But that was really cool. In a more like recent thing that I found interesting, the Dark Universe was pretty cool. I liked that a lot. I just actually just finished reading the original Frankenstein novel and stuff, and you and I watched a few of the you watched one too, Dad, but we watched a few of the original Universal Monsters movies. So it was really cool to see that land and what they did with it. The ride in there was really cool. It was the same ride system as
Forbidden Journey.
Forbidden Journey. In Islands of Adventure, but it was really cool to see the animatronics we like way months ago when they did the reveal for him. It was cool to see him in person. It was technologically really impressive.
Insane.
But, yeah.
It's awesome.
What about you?
I'm going to just, you were touching on it a minute ago, but the queue, the initial entry into the queue at Battle for the Ministry of Magic or whatever was jaw-dropping.
It really was.
The level of grandeur in that space.
And detail.
And yeah, I mean, just being in that area and just hanging out. You're standing there, it's just like, this is amazing. And you just kept saying it over and over again. And you're in there. I mean, we were in there probably half of the time we were in the queue, would you say?
The rest
in
of
that section with it. And just never once finding things that you're bored with it. You're constantly looking and finding new things, and the way that it goes so like high and it just looks like it continues to go forward.
I think the thing that impressed us the most about that area is the fact that they didn't cut any corners with it. I mean, that entire room. So if you've seen pictures of the queue, or even if you've seen the Ministry of Magic in the movies, there's these tiles along the floors, walls, and ceiling, and there were actual tiles laid on every surface in there, which is crazy because they didn't have to do that. Like, once you get to a certain height, you could have switched it to like a wallpaper or something, right?
Because there have been parks that do that,
but they didn't. Everything was tile, or if it was a wallpaper, it was convincing. And then you had all those offices. Those offices had furnishings in them. Nobody uses them, but they're there. And they made it look like they were lived in, all for nothing but a queue line. I mean, that's a level of immersion for something that's just a waiting area. I mean, that's impressive.
It is.
That's that's a really cool attention to detail.
Yeah, and for me, that was not just my favorite experience, but that was probably the thing I was most surprised with. We had heard about the queue. The queue is an experience. The queue is an experience, all of that. I was skeptical of that. I mean, how do you make a queue cool? Beyond what we'd seen in, Galaxy's Edge and Diagon Alley and some of these other places. I mean, you'd seen cool queues before. My jaw was on the floor throughout that experience. What was your biggest surprise? I'll start with you, Sam. What was your biggest surprise?
Mine was definitely Super Nintendo World. I mean, the rides themselves were fine. I wouldn't put any of them near my favorites. They were decent. But the land itself really took me by surprise. Again, it comes to the immersion thing, but...
Ready to make a real impact every day? Join the Active Day Home Care team and help clients maintain their independence in the comfort of their own homes. Make a difference in someone's life as you provide essential daily assistance and protect their health and happiness. Earn up to $20 an hour and enjoy additional perks like optional daily pay, 401k, paid time off, ongoing educational training, and more. Join a team that values care, compassion, and your professional growth. Visit activeday.com to apply.
The way they had you enter the park really helped sell the effect, because you go in through an escalator that's like going up one of the green pipes from the Mario games, which was cool, right? It plays the sound and everything. And then you exit out into, was it Princess Peach's castle? And it's got the paintings from like Mario 64 that change and stuff, right? It was cool. But then as you're walking, you know, you see the exit to the castle, and it was bright, so you couldn't see. So you kind of, once everything came into focus, you saw Nintendo World. I mean, it looked like you stepped straight into the game. I mean, there's coins that are floating around everywhere, little mushrooms floating around and Goombas. I mean, it looked like you stepped in a game. Again, they didn't need to put that much detail in it. I mean, these were like animatronics sprinkled everywhere you look. They didn't have to do that, but it really sold the effect, and the vertical nature of it felt like a video game level because you had to, you know, jump up and down and everything, right? I mean, the feeling of stepping into a video game is cool. And I'm not even that big of a Nintendo guy, right? Like, I played a few of the games and they're fine. I can, you know, I enjoy them, but there was just something really neat about stepping into that world and like that. It was a really cool feeling.
That's awesome. So, Nathan, what was your biggest surprise?
Yeah, outside of like Burke and the Ministry of Magic, a weird one that I don't think many people talk about, but was something that we discovered. The food was fantastic.
Yeah. Well, and that goes back to how bad the food
It's
is
so
at
bad
the
at
regular Universal Studios and Islands
And
of
it's
Adventure.
really hard to find pretty good food even at Disney World. Like
Sometimes.
like
outside the major restaurants.
right?
Yeah.
Like it's difficult, and then you find the same exact things everywhere. Like the pizza at Disney, pretty atrocious in a lot of places, and same
edible.
goes for Universal.
Universal's worse.
Universal somehow worse, but the food at Epic Universe, all the places that we ate
The
at,
mac and cheese cone in Burke. That's where it's at.
but no, Pizza Moon was
The pizza place there that in
really
the,
good.
It was
What's
good.
that? What's the land that
Celestial Park.
Celestial Park.
Yeah, it's the main hub.
Really, really good. And then Mom and I went to Toadstool Cafe, and that burger was fantastic, and it was fun. You know, it had like a painted on mustache and like a little like Mario hat toothpick at the top.
that's
of
fun.
It. Like, and Mom's like, she got a kid's meal because she doesn't eat much, and her entire plate was laid out like a Mario level. So
Really?
there was a flag at the top of her burger, and Mario was like in the fries, and there was like a coin
So it was
block and
not
all this stuff.
just the food; it was the presentation, but the food was amazing as well.
Yes, and I mean the Toadstool Cafe. The closest thing I can compare it to is it has a similar vibe to like Rainforest Cafe because they have video
Okay.
screens on all the walls, and like events happen every now and then with like Bowser coming in to like attack the toads and all that stuff, and like the place gets a bunch of thunder and dark.
That's cool.
And your like table rumbles, like really cool stuff. And the food was good, like. Which is shocking, but it's important because, you know, if you're there for that long, I mean, you think it from a business perspective, people will spend more money if your food's good, and then they stay in the park for longer. So, truly was a surprise because I was expecting to be like, ugh, there's nothing good around here. And we barely tried any. We tried 2 places.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are many more that we can find.
We heard a lot
something
about other
now.
places.
So, yeah, that was the biggest surprise for sure.
I was surprised at how the thing that was pretty cool about Epic was every time you go from your the Celestial Park, is that it?
that's the
your
hub.
main hub, into each of these additional lands. The way that you transition into those makes you truly feel like you're in a completely different
Well,
park.
there's one way in and out of each of those lands. Because with, like, say, Magic Kingdom in Disney World, right? Yeah, there's the central hub, and you can get to Adventureland and Tomorrowland and Fantasyland and stuff from the central hub. But you can also get to any other land from the other lands by just going around the outside, right? So there's no real barriers between. They're not sectioned off very much. Kind of like what you were talking about with
Right.
Galaxy's Edge. You just walk from, well, what
Either
was
Toy Story Land
or what was Muppet Land, right?
And literally, you just walk through a small tunnel.
Well, that's going from one way. The other, if you're going from Toy Story Land, it's just
you
straight in.
Oh, the floor's changed.
Yeah, that's true.
That's it. And that is an issue I know we've had about Galaxy's Edge. It's just
And we've never been to the LA version.
no, but
Sure.
I feel like it's pretty similar from what I've heard.
Right.
But the transitions to parks was excellent. The
Yeah,
portal,
it does. It really does feel like you're transitioning into it completely.
and they did such an amazing job. And it literally can only get better from here. Of even when you're outside of a park or outside of a land, it's hard to see anything in that land outside of it. Mm-hmm. But when you immediately get through that gate, it feels like an entire new section of the park open. And that's because it's blocked by a lot of trees currently. And those trees can only grow. And so it's just going to get more immersive, get better from here, and highly impressive.
So one of the things that we ended up having a lot of conversations with, kind of the second half of the day at Epic, was this park, Epic Universe, is the closest we've ever come to finding a park that feels like it has that Disney magic something with it. I mean, we love Universal. We've been so to give people that may not be aware, lived in Orlando, annual pass holders at Walt Disney World, annual pass holders at Universal.
Yep.
We've done it all, right? We love Universal, but we're Disney people. We've always been Disney people. But Epic seemed to come the closest to finding that Disney magic, right? Where you feel like you're completely in a new world. It just feels special with it. But at the same time, we kept having that conversation of there's still something that's missing. Sam, I think you picked up on it. At the end of the day, we kind of gathered around the fountain at the center of Celestial Park, which is they do a fountain water light show.
Just kind of the closing
ceremonies thing. And I think it was during that you nailed what I think is something that is going to keep all of these parks from having that Disney magic that we tend to be attracted toward. Maybe Nathan disagrees, but Sam, explain what we were saying.
Well, it's the thing that I came to the conclusion of is it's the music. Even for people who may not be musical, right? Like where they play instruments or anything, music still has a profound emotional impact on anyone.
Right.
And the thing that Disney has on Universal that Universal just, they can't manufacture this now is nostalgia with the music. I mean, you go to Disney, right? And every single song you hear is a callback to some other thing in their past, right? Every single one of their songs has some nostalgia.
It's an emotional tie down.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's childhood had Disney in it. If you grew up even if you weren't in America, but certainly if you grew up in America, you had Disney as a kid, right? So you'll be walking through the park and they'll have music playing anywhere. And it's something from a movie or a cartoon or whatever, right? Helping play on that nostalgia, right? And then every closing ceremony, it's just chock full of these classic Disney songs that you can't help but love, right? And from even the entry music to Disney is just songs, right? Like I'll catch myself, I'll find YouTube videos of the entry loops to Disney World and listen to it, right? Because it just feels good, right? It's just a nice feeling of nostalgia, right? So from park open to park close, you're inundated with these songs that you grew up loving or you came to love, as you watch the movies. Universal doesn't have that really. I mean, they've got I'm trying to think of some stuff that's got some classic music. You got Harry Potter. Harry Potter's got some classical music, right? A lot of people grew up on that too. Closer to our age, probably, Nate. You have that, right? You've got maybe Jaws a little bit. I'm just trying to think of other franchises that
But Jaws isn't going to. It's not an emotional connection.
No, you got Jurassic Park, but chances are, if you were a little kid, you hopefully weren't watching Jurassic Park. But then again, I can't judge. We probably watched it.
You watched it way too early.
Yeah, but whatever. Right. But, you got that. And then the closest thing, I think, at least for you and I, Nate, the closest franchise that has that music that hits that nostalgia similar to Disney is How to Train Your Dragon, right? Because we grew up on that. It's got such a iconic sound and theme to it, right? Yeah. You instantly know it when you hear it, right? So, but the problem is with Universal is when we're walking around like the general areas, like Celestial Park or the entry, they just have kind of generic epic orchestral music playing. And it's fine. It sets the tone, but it doesn't hit any emotion for you, right? And then this is kind of, it was a long lead up, but this is kind of where we came to this conclusion, Dad, when you and I were sitting there, we were watching the closing fountain show. They were playing music from each of the four lands, right? You had started with the Nintendo music. Oh, this is fun. Everyone knows the Mario theme, right? And that was a cool little moment, right? And then they had Harry Potter, right? Everyone knows the Harry Potter themes and stuff. Then they did Dark Universe, nothing. You don't know any of that music. They had to make it up. Right, they had to make it up for the park. It was cool. It sounds great. I even bought the vinyl, and I listened to it. It's great vinyl, right? But no connection to it, right? Then How to Train Your Dragon, right? And it's like, oh, huge, right? Like this instant moment. And we were like, this is Universal's attempt to play on that nostalgia through music.
But they just don't have the
don't have the history for it. Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that, Nate?
I think that all of that is accurate, but I think that y'all are putting more weight on it than it actually has. I don't believe it's as important as some people make it out to be. I think that when I walk into a park, I don't know, maybe I'm more critical with theme parks than most people. Magic Kingdom's fine. It's never been something that like, woo, I love. The nostalgia doesn't carry it for me. There's nothing uber fun there. Like, I enjoy Pirates of the Caribbean because I like the movies. Space Mountain's kind of fun. That's pretty much the extent of the things I enjoy doing at Magic Kingdom. Hollywood Studios, of course, I like more. You got Star Wars, you got Indiana Jones, you got Tower of Terror. Like I enjoy Hollywood Studios more, but I enjoy Epcot the most because I like all of the theming. I love walking around the lands. I love the different cultures. I love all that. But when you think about it, there's no music that plays from Disney movies and all those.
That's a good point. Epcot's probably the closest comparison to Epic that we can make.
And it's my favorite. And I don't think anything will ever top it. I just enjoy Epcot the most. Of course, you got the Guardians ride, and I mean, it's a fantastic ride, and it does have the classic 70s, 80s music. But that's just because that's good. Ratatouille's great as well. It's a fun ride. But I mean, there's not too many rides at Epcot. I just love the experience of Epcot and the immersion of Epcot with all the different countries and everything. And I think that carries to Epic Universe. I think if a theme park is good by itself, that's what matters. And I do think that Epic itself is a great theme park because you walk into you walk into Burke and you see the two Viking statues like when the movies open. And you're just like, oh my gosh, it's right there. And even especially at night when all the flames going on and everything like that. And you go on the ride and it's just, oh, there's Toothless, there's Hiccup. And you walk around the park and you see one of Toothless's kids, animatronic, walking around, or a dragon breathing ice breath. Like,
that was cool, yeah.
A theme park on itself should be great by itself and not rely on nostalgia. That's my opinion.
Well, Nate, let me ask you this. Are you a very nostalgic person? I don't get that feeling.
I don't think so.
Yeah. That was what I was going to say. I just don't think you're a very nostalgic person. You're able to be much more objective with that sort of thing. So I think that's kind of where it plays into your thing. And I'm not saying one way's right or the other. It's just a different viewpoint.
Well, we're annual pass holders at Universal again. We're going to get back down to Epic. We may be sooner than we think.
You and I are going to HHN for sure.
Woo!
Halloween
Horror Nights. Halloween Horror Nights. Yep.
Yeah,
that's gonna be fun.
Mm-hmm. Well, cool. Well, let's move on. If there is ever a surefire way to get people to click on your article, it's to find a way to write a headline that suggests that Mark Hamill is saying something negative about the sequel trilogy. On this week's bad news, we're going to call out Screenrant for really twisting things to make that happen.
Well, you want the bad news or the really bad news?
All right, so we've got this headline from Screenrant.com. Screenrant's pretty reputable most of the time.
We like Screenrant.
Well, they ranked us number 2 in fan podcasts back in, what was that,
2020? 2022.
So, you know, but we're gonna call them out. We're objective, right? The headline reads: Mark Hamill throws shade at the Star Wars sequel trilogy, makes Revenge of the Sith's worst decision even more confusing.
This is a twofer.
Yeah, there's a lot
with
there.
it because you've got something bad about the sequels, and you have them tapping into all the recent hype around Revenge of the Sith. So what's going on with Mark?
So the quote from the actual article, Mark Hamill says, "When I would complain about things in the third one, I'm assuming that's Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi is the third
correct?
One?
Yeah, the third one. Yeah.
I said, Luke has lost his hand. He's got the black glove. Shouldn't it be Luke struggling with turning to the dark side? And then George said, Mark, it's for children. And that's why he would never consider killing off any of the main characters. In the new ones, though, they pop us off one at a time. That's the quote. That's the entire quote.
That's the quote. So where's the headline in this one?
I don't know.
I don't see Revenge of the Sith in this,
No.
but I think that they may have thought third one.
No, I don't think so. I'll come back to Revenge of the Sith. I know where Screenrant is coming from on the Revenge of the Sith thing. But Mark is saying nothing to do with Revenge of the Sith. Where's the headline about the sequel trilogy in here? They're claiming
in the new ones they pop us off one at a time, which is silly because George is saying Mark is for children. That's why he would never consider killing off any of the main characters, right? Well, sure. I don't really think any main characters died in the original trilogy.
They didn't,
right? None of the main characters died in the sequel trilogy either. Luke isn't the main character anymore in the sequels. I mean, I love Luke. I love the originals, but they aren't the main characters in the sequel trilogy. That's Rey, that's Finn, that's Poe, you could argue Kylo probably, and sure he dies, but it's about the equivalent of Vader dying. Mm-hmm. So that's you can't use that as an argument either, really. So
honestly, it's not George's franchise anymore.
Well, yeah.
I hate to break it to you, but it's not George's decision to do what he wants with these movies.
That's a slippery slope, though, because we've had this discussion before, and we came to a good conclusion, but he says it's for children, right?
No,
I think the movies are, but they didn't kill the main characters. We have to remember that.
Here's the thing. Mark is always cracking jokes.
That's true.
So Mark is he's kind of a joker. Mark is taking this moment where he's describing Revenge of the Jedi.
Return of the Jedi.
Was when he was making these comments,
Blue
it was
Harvest.
Revenge of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi, he's talking about, okay, so Luke's lost his hand, Luke's got a glove, he's going dark, and all of that. He's being serious about that conversation. Mm-hmm. Then he reacts with a joke, which is when you watch Mark's conversations about Star Wars, he does this all the time. The joke is, the new ones, they just pop us off one at a time. That's him joking around. That wasn't the point of his quote. The quote was, when we made Return of the Jedi, George was saying this is for kids. We're not killing off our main characters in that.
Right.
That's the point of the quote. Instead, Screenrant pulls this up and tries to turn that quote into throwing shade at the sequel trilogy when he wasn't even really talking about the sequel trilogy. No. And that's why it's bad news, because that's not an accurate retelling of what Mark's saying. Right. Then you bring in the Revenge of the Sith, and the way that the author of the article brings in Revenge of the Sith is, they killed off one of the big three in Revenge of the Sith, because in their mind, the big three are Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Padme in that, right. And they killed off Padme. How are they going to keep Padme alive?
Right.
Think about where we're at in the story. How do you keep Padme alive? Is she going to die off screen in between Revenge of the Sith? And so again, all they're doing in this is they're creating a clickbait headline that throws shade at the sequel trilogy
because that's top,
because that's clickbaity,
right?
And taps into Revenge of the Sith hype
because it's current.
It's been a bit slow in the news.
It is. I mean, honestly, I'm looking for content all the time now that we've redone this, and I'm having to manufacture
Superman
stories.
Well, we're talking Star Wars.
I literally did a YouTube short where we talk about James Gunn and Superman and tie it to Star Wars.
There you go.
Because I needed content, right?
Clickbait.
For it. So, but at the same time, you need your headlines to be
truthful,
to not be misleading.
Right.
And this headline, specifically as it relates to Mark's comments about the sequel trilogy, is misleading. And that is bad journalism, because that's not helping Star Wars fandom. That's hurting Star Wars fandom. So that's my rant on that. All right. So, the summer blockbuster season is well underway.
Very
since
much so.
The last time that you heard from the three of us, we've seen, let's see, Mission Impossible, Final Reckoning, Lilo and Stitch, Ballerina, and How to Train Your Dragon. So we're going to go really fast through this, but we're going to share our thoughts on all of them.
A surprise, to be sure. but a welcome one.
All right, so we'll go first on the list. We'll do these real rapid fire kind of letterbox rating, like 2-sentence blurb on it, and we'll go from there. So first up, let's talk about Ballerina. Nate, what would you give Ballerina?
I get a 4 out of 5. I liked it. I mean, when you're talking about John Wick, it felt like a John Wick movie. It fit very well into that franchise, and action was good. I enjoyed it. It was a fun time.
Yeah, I would say 4 out of 5 as well. The thing that I want from a John Wick story is I want it to feel like it's in the John Wick universe, and I don't want them to be explaining everything happening in that universe. I want them to drop me down into it and make me go, why are they doing that? Where did that come from? And let me have those questions going away. I got all of that plus great action and Keanu Reeves showing up, being Keanu Reeves for a while. So what about you?
Yeah, actually 4. So across the board, it's 4. Yeah, I would echo everything that y'all are saying. The thing I appreciated too was when John Wick showed up, they didn't, for lack of a better term, nerf him. He was still a presence, which makes those movies, more substantial. It added to the world and made what already existed better.
I agree with that.
So it was a great movie. Yep.
All right. Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. We spent a lot of time talking about Dead Reckoning when that thing came out because of the Christopher McQuarrie interchange that we had for 2 weeks where we were talking about things. I'll start with you, Sam. How would you give, what rating? You didn't like it as much as we did. What did you give it?
I initially gave it a 3. I would probably bump it up to 3.5, 3.5. I just didn't get it. And then now I'll say it was a great action. There were great action pieces, right? Tom Cruise did what Tom Cruise does best, and that was a lot of fun. Some of the story beats didn't make sense to me, and then I felt like the final action sequence just felt like a rehash of Fallout. That's just me.
The airplane sequence was like mimicking the helicopter sequence.
Well, it felt very similar to me. But, it was fine. I'll go with that. It was fine.
Okay. What about you?
Well, I gave it a 5. My ratings, whenever you get that, it's like, oh my gosh, that's one of your favorite movies. No. When it comes to my ratings, if I like the movie, I'd give it a like. If I didn't like the movie, I'd do a not like.
Okay.
But when it comes to the stars and everything, it's how do I think the quality of what they were wanting to achieve was approached. And for a Mission Impossible movie, they nailed everything they needed to. Writing was sharp. Action was very well done. Set pieces were amazing. Stunts were some of the craziest we've seen. I mean, Tom Cruise fell out of a plane with a burning parachute 16 times in a row.
It was impressive.
Come on.
And him climbing
and he
around.
held his breath under the water for Lord knows how long. When Tom Cruise is nervous for a stunt, you're having a crazy time. Storyline was great, wrapped it up very well, gave Ethan Hunt some more weight. Stakes were highest we've ever seen in a Mission Impossible movie, you felt it.
That's fair.
It wasn't just like this is far-fetched. No, they really took the intensity from Dead Reckoning and amped it up to an 11 and put you in the middle of it.
That's fair.
So, yes, 5 stars for what they were trying to achieve. 100%. I liked it. It was a very well-made movie. I think I did the same thing with Sinners. If I was going purely off of based on my like, I probably wouldn't give it that. But for what they were trying to achieve and the quality of filmmaking from that, 100%.
You just had to throw in a Sinners reference.
I'm just talking about the movies itself, for sure. What about you?
I don't give out 5s. So I would say it's probably 4 to 4.5, somewhere in that area. I loved this movie. You know that, Nathan and I. I've seen it 3 times. I went into this movie with one North Star, and that was our theory from Dead Reckoning as to whether or not Grace was Ethan's daughter. I wanted to see if that was going to be accurate. It held up. I watched it a second time. It held up even more. I watched it a third time. I am 100% convinced. I fell asleep during the scenes. It didn't matter. With it, 100% convinced. Plus, it just, for Ethan, the point, it's now far enough. If you haven't seen this movie, you can skip to the next part of this podcast. But for Ethan Hunt, they wanted to make this. There's only one person on the planet that should be entrusted with this technology, with this responsibility. And that's Ethan, because Ethan is genuinely good.
Yeah.
And I loved the way that they closed that out. So
And that was set up from the rest of the franchise.
Absolutely.
And that was very well told.
Absolutely.
Loved that.
All right, Lilo and Stitch. Somebody go.
Yeah. Shoot. I think I gave it a 3.5. Which is pretty middle of the road for me. I rate a lot of movies at that.
Middle of the road, I feel like, is a 4 for me.
Really?
But I'm just more, I guess I like movies more.
That's fair. Well, you and I have a different rhetoric.
That's true. We do have
Or
different
rubric for rating. Anyway, no, it was a fun, fresh take on the movie. There were some things like I think Jumbo was a little weird, and I missed Gantu a little bit. But as for the movie, I liked it. We are definitely in the minority from what I'm hearing about liking the ending.
Oh, what?
And stuff.
That's wild.
yeah. No, most people I'm seeing, at least online, do not like the ending. But I liked it. I thought it was a good live action adaptation.
Hey,
I gave it a 4.5. I think for what they were wanting to achieve with the remake, I mean, you look at Disney's live action remakes, no doubt it's the best one.
Yeah.
It made... What's...
I don't know. Cinderella was pretty good.
I never watched it.
It was pretty good. All right, fair.
But with Lilo and Stitch, I liked the changes. Whoever they got to play Lilo, she did an amazing job.
That little girl.
Yeah, she was really good.
Fantastic. Stitch was cute, not too realistic for the movie. I was worried they were going to just like make him a rat and then
like
just
cursed Sonic.
Yeah, exactly like that. But no, he was still cute. He was still fun. It was a fun movie. Felt more emotional in some parts than maybe I'm just older than when I watched the original Lilo and Stitch, but I knew it even got Mom more than the original one.
I think it had more time to breathe.
It did have more time to breathe. And so I think for what they were trying to achieve, very well done. I think it struggled with the ending being a slightly rushed. I feel like we kind of just jumped right into it a little quick compared to the original one.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not an issue. I think it still told the story exactly how they needed to tell it, and I enjoyed it. Yeah,
it's good. Nate,
yep, the big boy,
the one that you've been waiting to see for a long time. You were genuinely nervous going into it.
Very much so.
How to Train Your Dragon.
How to Train Your Dragon. Well, the original's a 5, and this was just pretty much an updated version of the original, so a 5 for sure. I mean, it's you hear live action remake, and you immediately like, yikes. There was no reason to do that for this one. I mean, the best CGI I've seen in a movie in a long time. And after rewatching it last night, that was just confirmed. Like, absolutely. I was actively searching for bad CGI, and I was like, how did they do this? And, you know, a lot of those movies, and I mean, you even go to like, I'll compare it to a not great live action remake of Lion King. All of the characters, all the characters, well, they're still CGI characters,
I know.
and they still look artificial. They have like a weird artificial shine, and like it looks like you're looking at like an outline. And I was looking for that in this one with the dragons, and I'm just like, they just did such an excellent job with just moving it into this, and all the actors did amazing. And you get Gerard Butler back as Stoic, it's great. But Mason Thames as Hiccup did a fantastic job, and whoever played Astrid, I don't remember her name, she did great. I mean, I really just, for How to Train Your Dragon, it was amazing, and I cannot wait to see and get my heart torn apart in the second one.
That's gonna hurt.
That's gonna be
rough.
Lot. And then I hope that they make the third one. But truly, I mean, I think that this allows a next generation of fans to be able to get into How to Train Your Dragon. We saw that last night. There was a lot of young kids at that movie that hadn't seen the originals before. There was a little girl that after Hiccup fell into the fire at the end, it was quiet. Is it done? Everybody started laughing. But I mean, that just shows that we were at Epic Universe and we were walking through the gift shop in Burke, and one of the kids was like, I want this dragon, and the dad's like, let's wait till you watch the movie and then you can decide what dragon you want. Like, there are a bunch of kids that haven't seen these movies that are now going to see these movies and fall in love with it the same way that Sam and I did, which is it feels kind of like how I'm sure it felt like with you for Star Wars, like with the sequel trilogy, seeing a bunch of new fans come into it. And now we're seeing a bunch of new fans come into something that we loved for so long. And so
that's cool.
Highly, highly recommended.
What do you think about it, Sam?
Yeah, for me, the original's a 4, and the reason I do that is because they get better with each one, so I can't start at 5.
The original's a 4? No, I think all of them are a 5.
Okay.
I literally, none of them are bad.
Okay, well, and this one was a 4. It was pretty much shot for shot, line for line a lot of the time, which, and this isn't a dig at the movie. This is just me not knowing exactly what I want from a live action remake yet. Do I want them to take liberties or do I want them to make it shot for shot? I don't know yet, because I liked Lilo and Stitch and they took some liberties in that. And I liked this. I probably liked this more, honestly, which maybe...
I think you like the source material of this more.
True.
So.
But this was pretty much shot for shot and it was great. So I don't know.
But it added 27 more minutes to the runtime.
To this movie?
Yep.
It didn't feel like it.
No.
I think they just let certain scenes breathe a little longer.
I agree with that.
For the most part, it was pretty much...
the test drive was longer.
A little bit, yeah.
By like a minute and a half almost.
Yeah,
so.
But the movie itself was great. And yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about it from now on. The visuals were great. If it isn't at least nominated for an Oscar in visuals, that would be a crime.
Like, right now visual effects are the best.
It was incredible.
Very, very long time. Yeah. I really like How to Train Your Dragon. I don't have the emotional connection to the story that you guys have, just like I don't have the emotional connection to Lilo and Stitch that you guys had. I liked Lilo and Stitch. I thought it was really, really good. Don't care if I ever see it again.
Yeah.
How to Train Your Dragon, really, really enjoyed it. Was not as... I did not recall the emotional content that's in this. The thing that I struggle with How to Train Your Dragon is the quick heel turn on the dads in this. It's like the dads are kind of bad guys for the first 2/3 of this movie. They're treating their kids terribly. They're, that kind of situation. You got that with Stoic. I think Stoic, you can tell Stoic loves Hiccup, but Stoic's like, I want you to be this. And then even when he's proud of him, it's because you're a dragon killer. You're that guy. Then all of a sudden it's like, boom, you're no longer my son. And then boom, we're good again, right? I struggle with that in this movie specifically.
Yeah, and I can understand that, but coming from a perspective, like I know you haven't seen the second one in a long time, but coming from the perspective of Sam and I, or maybe just me, that doesn't feel as drastic when you know what Valka's opinions on dragons are, which are the same as Hiccup's. So it came from a place of
hurt,
yes, and of like, well, she was.
Okay.
Saying the same thing about dragons. And so you feel that, and then you come back to this, and you're like, you understand why he was so against it, but he still had that seed kind of planted in his mind of dragons. So,
well, we got a lot to still cover in the podcast, so I want to keep things moving forward. But we've got a lot of movies coming out in July: Jurassic World Rebirth, Superman, Fantastic Four: First Steps. I already know your answer.
Yeah,
I'll start with you, Sam. I'm curious about of those movies. I don't think Jurassic World is the one. You already said you're going to skip it. Superman or Fantastic Four? Which one are you most excited about?
Superman.
Okay, good answer.
And you're Superman?
No doubt.
I'm most excited about Superman. I'm most intrigued about Fantastic Four.
No, I can give both of those awards to Superman right now because so much is riding on it.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. But because Fantastic Four is coming out 2 weeks later, this is what I think. I think Superman's going to be a triumph. Everything I see from this movie right now tells me it's going to be a box office juggernaut, first $1 billion movie of the year. And I think that they're going to deliver. They're going to open up the DCU really, really effectively, like powerfully, right? So then 2 weeks later, you've got Fantastic Four coming out in an era where Marvel has already lost. The shine's gone from the diamonds.
Thunderbolts didn't even make its budget back.
Exactly. What's going on? I actually, there's some funny math with the way
there is a little bit of funny math.
But anyway, Fantastic Four is going to have a lot of pressure when it comes out. So I'm intrigued to see how that plays. All right. It is very interesting to think about how the Jurassic franchise and the MCU that we've been talking about are struggling to find their way. while the DCU is rebooting under James Gunn, who recently must have listened to our episode from December of 2023 when we said that the future of these franchises has to follow the blueprint of Godzilla -1. Story first, IP second. James Gunn recently said that that's the model that he's following with Superman. And it feels like this is the strategy that Tony Gilroy used with Andor, which is both a critical and a popular super success. Meanwhile, a report from the Hollywood Reporter suggests that Dave Filoni and Carrie Beck are next in line to lead Lucasfilm. So what does this mean for the future of a galaxy far, far away?
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
All right, so when you guys heard the rumors that Filoni was potentially taking on a larger role, even beyond creative director, potentially replacing Kathleen Kennedy, what was your initial reaction? Was it excitement? Was it a little trepidation? Was it a little bit of both? What do you? I'll start with you.
I'm super excited. I mean, I don't think that there is a bigger fan in Lucasfilm that has this type of authority that will do better at telling these stories. I love his stories with Star Wars. I mean, we've seen it. And there are a lot of people that love his stories. I think just people like to hate what's popular. It's frustrating when people start hating on Filoni when they said, in Filoni we trust for it feels like my entire life. But we've seen Clone Wars is amazing. Rebels is amazing. Mandalorian, pretty freaking fantastic.
Well, he was speaking into Mandalorian.
He was. And
he's not Jon Favreau.
Ahsoka, spectacular, in my opinion. One of the most, outside of the movies, it feels the most Star Wars. And I think we'll talk about this a little bit later, the differences between Andor and Ahsoka. And I'll expand on more what I said earlier in the podcast. But I truly do think that Filoni, at the head of Lucasfilm, could never be a bad thing.
Sam, when you go back and you watch some of the Ahsoka specifically, right? Because that's Filoni's first live action, like the thing that he's done. It tends to be what the complaints about Ahsoka, the criticisms of Ahsoka, where if you don't know Rebels, you can't watch it. It's too tied to the lore, too tied to the previous stories for you to pick up on it. And that's a challenge because Filoni is neck deep in Star Wars lore.
Right.
So when he writes a story, it's all real for him. He isn't seeing it from the casual fan, the normie's perspective with it. Do you think that could be a problem if Dave Filoni is leading Lucasfilm and helping drive these stories?
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see how that's a problem. It depends on the direction that Lucasfilm wants to go with Star Wars right now. I think that the advantage that Andor has is it's not really connected to anything. You can watch that show from start to finish, not having seen anything else Star Wars pretty much, and you'll be fine, right?
Absolutely.
So I think that gave a lot of people who heard the online buzz, like, I got Disney Plus. They're familiar with Star Wars, but they're like, let's see what the hype's about, right? And they watch it, right? And they liked it. With Ahsoka, you can't do that. I mean,
you're talking about a show that's titled after a character that was introduced in a TV show.
You're right. And that may just be an inherent issue with it, right? I mean, Mando, I guess you could probably watch Mando without connection. And that would be fine. I think it gets a little more tied into stuff later down the road once you start bringing in
the criticisms of season 3 are the same criticisms.
Because that's where like Bo-Katan and all of them show back.
Well, she's in season 2.
She was okay. Yeah. Well, Mandalore and all that stuff. So I don't know. It's tough. If Lucasfilm wants to go, hey, let's try to bring in new people, they're going to need to go closer to the Andor route, right? But if they want to be, hey, let's really dive into this story that we have already set up, they need to go the Filoni route.
Okay. Well, let's just talk about what we love here for a minute. Okay. All right. So we love Rebels. We love Clone Wars. We love Filoni. We love Ahsoka. You guys both picked Ahsoka over Andor as your favorite between the two. So what is it about Dave Filoni's approach to Star Wars that resonates with you guys so much? What does he bring to the table that you feel like is uniquely his?
Heart. I mean, I'm not saying that Andor didn't have heart.
It had a ton of heart
and feeling, but maybe hope is the right word. Is closer to the word I'm meaning here. Joy, I don't know, something like that. I think they both had heart and feeling behind what being made, but one was a lot more, I guess, light side, in a way, and that's Filoni, right? There's with Rebels and all of that stuff. Sure, there are some dark moments too, especially in Clone Wars too. I mean, that gets pretty heavy. Yeah. But it always comes back around to the good guys win, and it's like an overwhelming triumph, right? And there's always this hope to it. With Andor, it was kind of depressing the whole time.
Come back and talk about Andor in a minute. What about you?
I think that Dave Filoni brings like kind of what Sam says, but levity. There's always a good feeling when you finish.
Oh, and I gotta look up this word real quick.
A Filoni IP kind of. Even with the Rebels last 5 episodes hurting so much, you still get a sense of hope and a sense of good afterwards. I mean, there's always something towards the end. And even with Ahsoka, the entire first season is continuing to search for Ezra and continuing to search of a way to stop Thrawn. Like, it feels like there is a very distinct line between good and evil, light side and dark side, when you're watching something that Dave Filoni makes for Star Wars. Andor, it was living in the gray, which is not a problem. Andor was amazing, and Andor was Star Wars. I'm not saying that. But when I think of if you put Andor back in the 80s with that kind of Star Wars, it wouldn't work as well as if you put Ahsoka back in the 80s and had it with that Star Wars. Because it feels like an easier transition for even newer fans to go from watching the Skywalker saga and then watching Ahsoka than I feel like it would be for Star Wars fans to watch the Skywalker saga and watch Andor.
In terms of tone, you mean?
Yes, in tone. And
I mean, Andor, it changes things. It's darker.
I mean, if
it's grittier. It
feels closer to something like if you throw it back in the 80s, right? It feels something closer to like Alien.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, it's darker. It's more grounded. Tony Gilroy has said he doesn't even really watch didn't really watch the Star Wars movies. He's not into Star Wars, right? And he's making this show. It's funny. You guys were talking about people could watch Andor that didn't really get into Star Wars or haven't watched Star Wars. I had a thread, a Twitter or Threads. I think it was Threads, Threads back and forth with the guy that plays Mike in the TV show Suits. Patrick McAdams.
Okay.
This not Harvey Specter, but Mike, the lawyer that's cheating his way into.
Haven't watched
Sam
a
has
single
watched
episode.
it.
Okay. So anyway, those of you listening know.
I'll take it.
We were talking, and he's like, "I'm not a Star Wars fan. I don't have a problem with Star Wars, but I just never really got into the movies. I just watched Andor, and I love it." And I said, "You're the exact target audience for Andor."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't. And this is where becomes a bit of a challenge, because I mean, can Andor? George Lucas has said Star Wars should be for 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
Right. We acknowledged even on a previous episode when we talked about Andor, Star Wars has changed. It's 50 years. There are old guys like me that want their Star Wars, and we can have it through things like Andor, that we're in the Star Wars universe, but it's an adult driven show. But can you introduce kids to Star Wars through something like Andor?
Well,
No.
I think,
I don't think I wouldn't let a 12-year-old watch Andor. I mean, that's might be controversial, but there's a lot of heavy stuff, and even to the point of, if content-wise, if it's too heavy, I don't think that they would understand the
complexity,
the weight and complexity of it. They
That's
wouldn't
fair.
be able to even appreciate it.
That's fair.
I
think
so. Yeah, I don't think you can introduce younger audiences to Andor, but that's not to say that Andor being in Star Wars is a bad thing.
No, I'm
think
not
it's
saying that.
completely okay.
But the context for this conversation, though, is which direction is the right direction for Star Wars? Is it Filoni's version of Star Wars, or is it Gilroy's version of Star Wars?
I think that there's plenty of options for both. And I mean, of course, if you ask me, I'm going to bring DC into everything. You can look at what James Gunn is doing for the DCU right now. And he's even specifically said it. He's like, if there's a movie or a project that needs to be more family oriented and PG-13, we're going to make sure it stays that way. But if there's something that needs to be kind of R-rated and more for the adults, we're going to make sure it stays that way too.
I mean, Creature Commandos was not for kids.
There's going to be areas for both people. They're making a Starfire animated series that's more geared toward the tweens, teens, kids kind of thing. And then you're going to be getting this Mr. Miracle TV show, which I'm going to talk about a little later, not for kids, not even close. It's dark. No. It's really heavy. And then you're going to get Peacemaker, and you're going to have Superman coming out both a month of each other. One's for family, one's certainly not. You look at Star Wars, you're going to get Andor, not for kids. You're going to get Ahsoka. It very well could be for younger families. I would be completely fine 12-year-old watching Ahsoka. They loved Rebels, they could go right into Ahsoka. Or say love Clone Wars, can go right into Ahsoka. You don't need to watch both Clone Wars and Rebels to understand Ahsoka. I truly don't. Or even appreciate it. So I think it just comes with the fact that you can have both. I don't know why we feel like we have to choose one or the other.
Well, I mean, I don't think that we need to choose one or the other. But the reality is, when the conversation around Star Wars right now is overwhelmingly give me more Andor. Give me more Gilroy. That's give me more of that style.
Of course that's going to be the dialogue online.
It's the only thing we had this year.
Well, no. I mean, of course that's what everyone's going to be saying online. 12-year-olds aren't going to Twitter saying, hey, give me more Ahsoka. That's not how kids work. So of course,
that's exactly what I was saying.
It's it's the survivorship bias. It's like, oh, everything is saying this, so it has to be what the majority wants. No, that's just the only people who can say that, right? Like, it's not a fair metric to say everyone online wants this thing.
Right. That's what I was saying about like Young Jedi Adventures last podcast. Like,
they're not.
5-year-olds aren't going to go on
5-year-olds telling everybody to watch Young Jedi.
Give me more. Like, we're not going to get that.
Right.
But you look at the ratings.
So, Sam, do you think that these two styles can coexist in the Star Wars universe?
I think they have to. I think, like Nathan was saying, the world of franchises is going to have to diversify now, because these franchises are so long-standing now that you have this weird era where there's people like you, Dad, and then even Nathan and I, to an extent. These generations who grew up on it wanting more mature stories in this world. So you're going to have to cater to them, because they're still customers that are going to give you money. But these people have their own kids that they want to bring into it too. And if there isn't something for them, they lose out on customers.
Right. You look at Marvel now. And I mean, we grew up with Marvel, and that was a little bit more family oriented.
It really was.
Yeah. And then now you're getting our age that are growing out of it, still love Marvel. But
and you had a whole movie based upon depression.
And then you get Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which was PG-13, and yes, families can watch, but it was dark. It was heavy. You get Daredevil Born Again.
Very dark.
Not
a kid's story.
Not kids.
Not a kid's story.
Well, that existed in the Netflix era too.
But we never watched
Thunderbolts. Its whole discussion was about depression. I mean, like, come on.
So Marvel is trying to figure that out right now. I feel like they're leaning more towards the adulter side of things currently, but I think Fantastic Four is going to reel that back. But I do think that, like Sam said, franchises are going to have to learn how to diversify.
So what aspects of Filoni's Star Wars can benefit from Gilroy's influence and vice versa? What can they learn from each other?
I think that you can't have, the light has no impact if you don't have the dark. And I think that can be shown in both. It was really hard to watch Andor. And it barely had any moments of, like, real hope. Outside of maybe Mothma's speech at the end of season 2.
Yeah.
It was just depressing, the entire show. But Filoni, a lot of his stuff is, while he has dark moments, a lot of it's uplifting and lighter. So if they can find that balance of having those moments of pure dread in Filoni's stuff that lets his hope and uplifting hit so much more, and then vice versa with Tony Gilroy, and have those dark moments be juxtaposed with moments we're seeing of the galaxy rising up, like you could do in Andor. Like, okay, the rest of the galaxy is learning that this rebellion is a thing. Because we knew that they even mentioned it in Andor, that there were tons of cells of rebels around there, but we never really saw that. We never saw the rest of the galaxy rising up outside of Andor. I mean, would have loved to have seen more cells like Phoenix Squadron and what they're doing in the galaxy. Because then that would give me a sense of the rebellion's bigger than Andor.
Well, you did. That was Rebels.
True. Exactly. So just watch Rebels and Andor together, and then boom, you're.
What about you, Sam? What do you think? Could they? What would you take from both sides of this?
I think Nathan kind of stole what. Well, not stole. you and I have the same opinion with that. I think both could learn to balance each other in more ways than just tone. I think content wise as well. I think Filoni's stuff could learn to be a little more general, and then Gilroy's stuff could be a little more leaned into the larger story. I mean, for us Star Wars fans, the only things in Andor that we could really sink our teeth into were some stuff in like the shop, like some like background stuff, Well,
I would say that more than that, I would say that Filoni needs to level up as a live action director, writer, producer. And
that's fair.
And take from Gilroy the fact that every shot was beautiful and perfect, and special effects were great. Gilroy understands you show, you don't tell. Filoni has a real problem with telling instead of showing. A lot too much exposition.
Yeah, that's
not
fair.
as much that type of stuff, and just story first, lore. IP cameos second.
That's fair. Yeah.
But you can do both of those together.
I agree.
On this. One interesting thing to consider is that the next live action Star Wars that we're getting is Mandalorian and Grogu, theatrical release coming in May of 26. It's directed by Favreau, but he's being heavily influenced by Dave Filoni.
Not surprising.
With that. And then after that, we're getting season 2 of Ahsoka. So Gilroy has said he has no more interest in doing Star Wars. So it seems that this direction going forward is going to be Filoniverse by default. All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about?
Anything else?
Yeah, we got the villain for the new Toy Story. It's an iPad called Leapfrog.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
it's
the
whole
like against the
iPad kid
generation.
I mean,
because nobody plays with toys anymore. It's just every kid's on their iPad.
So that's the villain, pretty much, in the new movie.
Which I love it.
Honestly, that's true.
I kind of like it. I like that.
All right, Nate.
Yes, we got announced yesterday that we're getting a Mr. Miracle animated TV series for DC Studios. Whether it's in the DCU or not, I don't
Probably
know.
Not.
Somebody's gonna ask James Gunn on Thread, and he'll respond in like 2 days. But if they do, as a choice, I mean, you have Darkseid already finding the anti-life equation. So it's like if Thanos found all the Infinity Stones within the first like 2 projects
between Iron Man and Captain America.
And
yeah, exactly. It would be a choice, but also it's based off of Tom King's Mr. Miracle comic series. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend. Okay. Just don't take mushrooms before you read it. I think you will trip out.
But you can't watch the last episodes of the studio if you want.
Right, exactly.
Some mushrooms. I am, speaking of reading, I'm rereading the prequel novels.
Oh, yeah.
They're better than the movies. The movies are great. Attack of the Clones, Phantom Menace, Revenge of the Sith are great. The novels are...
You should read the sequel trilogy novels afterwards.
I've already read them.
We'll reread them.
They're great. No, I'm doing all of that with it. But yeah, they're fantastic. I highly encourage them. Like the first 3 chapters of Attack of the Clones happen before you get to the opening crawl of Attack of the Clones. That's like an hour and a half worth of reading before you get to it's all like character and world building. That's really important.
World building.
With it. It's really, really cool. All right. I think that's going to do it pretty much for this week. Listen, if you're looking for a community, find us on socials because we are seeing something really cool that's being built up on that.
We're on everything.
We are. I mean, Blue Sky is for people that are angry about everything political. So I really stay off of that right now because even the Star Wars people are just talking politics there. But Threads is where we're finding most of our engagement. So find us there with it. Share your thoughts with us. Engage with us. We'd love to stay connected with it.
Yeah, of course.
Anything else you guys want to say?
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you, always.
Thank you for listening to Tatooine Sons, a Star Wars podcast. Please subscribe and follow Tatooine Sons on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or your favorite podcast app. Tatooine Sons regularly publishes thoughtful articles intended to provoke conversation about the larger themes in Star Wars. Go to TatooineSons.com to explore further, and may the Force be with you, always.
This podcast, website, and social media accounts are not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited and is intended for entertainment purposes only. Star Wars, all names and sounds, and any other Star Wars related items and properties are trademarks of Lucasfilm Limited and its affiliates. All original content of this podcast and website is the intellectual property of Tatooine Sons unless otherwise indicated.